Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Krystal?
Indeed, we do. More big policy news, more big election news. So we got the big Biden, long-awaited and anticipated student loan debt relief program. We can give you all of those details and the political debates around it. Also, some very interesting results from the primary elections and the special elections that happen on Tuesday. Dan Marins and I broke that down yesterday, but there's even more that we're learning today that we're going to get into as well. Casually, while you weren't looking and while there was no debate, apparently we're sending another $3 billion to Ukraine.
Yeah, that's
right. So, yeah, that's happening.
We'll talk about it.
Package number 15?
9,000.
I don't know. Anyway. Get into that. Liz Cheney's next plans, also some polling showing exactly which voters she would draw if she were to run as an independent for president. No big surprises there. And Matt Damon with some very interesting comments on the movie industry, which has sort of like broader cultural implications. Very interesting there. Max Alvarez is going to be here in the flesh on the show. He's got a new book out, so can't wait to talk to him about that. Before we jump in, live show, we still have tickets?
Live show, very few tickets, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and put this up. Well, I guess fortunately for us. Let's go ahead and put this up there on the screen. Very smattering few of tickets that are left there, so
jump on it, guys, if you want to come.
Description.
Yep.
That's right. Go ahead and make your plans. It's going to be fun. Somebody did email me asking me about accommodations. Let me just say this. I don't know a damn thing about this.
We haven't even made our own accommodations.
Haven't even made our own accommodations.
Tell us where we should stay.
So if you have a recommendation for where the best place to stay in Atlanta, and food recommendations, always looking for food
definitely
send those in. I would love to see them.
Yes, all right. Indeed. Okay, let's get to the big announcement yesterday from the President of the United States. Let's go ahead and throw the Twitter announcement up on the screen. So after much anticipation and many false starts,
took a year.
He has now announced that this administration will be forgiving $10,000 in student debt if you did not receive Pell Grants and your income is under $125,000, so it's means tested. $20,000 if you went to college on Pell Grants. I think that was the part that was really quite surprising to people that hadn't been reported or speculated before. And of course, Pell Grant recipients disproportionately sort of like working class and lower income. Jeff Stein has all the details here. He's really, one of our friends over at the Washington Post. He's really been on top of reporting this out very effectively. Go ahead and put this up on the screen. He says, to summarize, $10,000 for most borrowers, $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients, only for under $125K individually, $250K jointly, aim to cap undergrad loan payments at 5% monthly income. That's actually a really sweeping and significant change. Yes. Previously, that had been at 10%. That was a policy that was set by the Obama administration to try to make student loan payments more affordable. Grad loans, Parent Plus, are eligible. And also, significantly, that student loan debt payment moratorium is going to be extended one final time until after the midterm elections. Some smart politics there. Those payments will restart on December 31st. I'm a little bit shocked that they were intelligent enough to make that move. But you know what? They've been surprising me lately with a couple of actually intelligent moves. Let's go ahead and listen to how the president sold this yesterday.
President, is this unfair to people who paid their student loans or chose not to take out loans?
Is it fair to people who, in fact, do not own multi-billion-dollar businesses if you want these guys to get them all at tax breaks? Is that fair? What do you think?
What about people who paid their loans?
Will provide real benefits for families without meaningful effect on inflation. Let's be clear. I hear it all the time. How do we pay for it? We pay for it by what we've done. Last year, we cut the deficit by more than $350 billion.
Let me give you a couple more of the numbers here, and then we can talk a bit about this. So the estimates are this will entirely wipe out the student debt balance of about 33% of loan holders. You have about 43 million people who will benefit in total, and it wipes out about half of the student loan debt of more than 50% of loan holders. So listen, you guys know my position. I think it should all be canceled and college should be free. So it's not as far as I would go. But I have to say, I mean, in terms of the way Biden framed this and the way that he went about it, it was quite feisty and it was very not neoliberal. So there's the neoliberal flourishes here, the means testing and those sorts of things. but embracing outright debt cancellation truly is a sort of ideological, philosophical break from the Clinton-Obama-style neoliberalism that's dominated for decades.
That is absolutely. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm personally against this policy. I'll lay out, and as I've always said, I have absolutely no problem with debt cancellation, even in terms of the how will you pay for it. Most of this is completely fake and has been absorbed by the college industrial complex, of which I consider myself a major enemy of. For politically, you know, I'm honestly not sure. Ideologically, I think it's a good thing in order to make past that and to understand that, first of all, look, Joe Biden himself is one of the people and one of the reason why that we are even in this situation. You know, if we'll remember, student debt is one of the only debts that you can't discharge even upon death, where they can garnish your family's wages, thanks to Mr. Joe Biden, Senator Joe Biden from the state of Delaware. But politically, honestly, I've been turning this over in my head, Krystal. On the one hand, yes, there are college-educated liberals. Disproportionately, those people are, you know, going to be Democratic voters. At the other, you know, only 37% of the U.S. population went to college. Even amongst Gen Z, younger voters, it's like 40-ish in terms of how many people are going to graduate. In general, 25% of the people who enter a four-year college degree never do graduate. So the vast majority of the public did not go to college. And, you know, this could piss a lot of people off. Now, I don't agree with the whole how are you going to pay for it, but there's a stark headline that I did see, I think, in the Wall Street Journal. This is about $2,000 per American taxpayer in terms of relief. Once again, I think student debt and the way that it is currently structured is immoral. I think the colleges are criminal. I think the entire debt system is insane. I think it drags down wages. College wage premium has gone down. It prevents people from getting married. It prevents people from buying a house.
Yeah.
I completely accept and believe in every single one of those things. But I do question the political wisdom as it was in 2020, given where the economy is, given also just the fact that at the end of the day, this is zero sum in a way. Like, some people are getting a break and some people are not getting a break, especially when we have 20-year high of credit card debt. So, you know, if you're younger and you have a lot of credit card debt and you didn't go to college, I don't know. I mean, if I had to be clear, I also should put this on the table. I didn't have any student debt. God bless my parents who paid for my college. So, you know, you should always take that with a grain of salt, whatever I say. I didn't suffer the same emotional burden. I'm looking at it dispassionately, and I could see it going both ways. I genuinely don't know.
So I think one indication of how it is likely to go politically is the fact that over on Fox News, they're freaking out about Joe Biden buying votes. I mean, the arguments, so let me take on the case sort of just like on a policy level for this, which I've laid out here before in the past about the sort of moral case for this. I mean, effectively, you had politicians from both parties that destroy the working class, send jobs overseas, bust unions, and make it very, very difficult to achieve any sort of middle class stability.
Yes.
Then what do they offer as a response to that? They say, go to college. This very individualistic bootstrap, if you want to get ahead, this is the path, and we're going to, you know, make these, help support this loan industry so that you can go and you can get a college education. And so pushing people in that direction has led to an entire generation, mostly millennials and now Gen Z, that were overwhelmingly loaded up with debt. It has, you see the implications of this in terms of the stats we always look at, the very small percentage of wealth that millennials hold. It's like 3% of total wealth that millennials have versus boomers have 60%. The late dates of being able to get married, the inability to buy a home, a lot of that stems from this massive debt load that our leadership class told people to take on, that was the right thing. And oftentimes you're making these decisions. I mean, I literally was applying to colleges when I was 16 years old and taking on this debt when I was 17 years old.
You have no real frame of mind.
Right. So these people are like, you're an adult when you do this, et cetera. I mean, these are young people, and they have been told by everybody that this was the path to take. So that's number one. I think morally the case is very sound and very just, and I don't think it's like a populist position to be like, young people deserve to be loaded up with mountains of debt for their entire life. And I know that's not your position whatsoever. I also don't buy this idea, even though I fully acknowledge that this is a very incomplete approach. And, you know, personally, again, I think that public university and community college and trade schools should be free. I think you should cancel all the debt and make college available universally to everyone. That way it is a universalist policy that benefits everyone, but we have to act in the realm of the possible right now. And this is what Joe Biden can do with his executive power without having Congress to make those broader reforms. I also think there's a lot of bad faith in the people who are like trying to make this class-based argument, which I understand of like, okay, this is going to benefit people who went to college and it's not going to benefit this other group. But those same people are also not offering like a policy that would benefit everyone. They just want to do nothing, right? And they're trying to weaponize this class division in order to be against this thing that would be good for, again, 43 million people would benefit, and 90% of those beneficiaries make under $75,000 a year. The last thing that I'll say here, sort of like a conservative argument for it. First of all, there are potential direct economic benefits that would accrue to the nation as a whole. Annual home sales, one estimate would rise by $300,000. GDP could be lifted by around $100 billion, so it could be significant in terms of the overall economy. And then I thought this was really interesting, makes a lot of sense. There's a negative correlation between student debt and small business formation. So if you're also someone who, believes in small business formation, believes in entrepreneurship, that debt that is laid on students right from the jump really, really harms their ability to go out and create and start their own thing. And a lot of the people who are, who are sort of the most sympathetic cases here and Pell Grant recipients, et cetera, a lot of people started college, got loaded up with the debt, didn't finish, or got the 4-year career and still had to go out and work at Starbucks or work in the Amazon warehouse. So I think there's a little bit of a caricaturish view of who student loan debt holders are. Yes, it's not everybody. And yes, the majority of Americans still do not complete 4-year college. But you have a large percentage of working and middle-class people who will benefit from this policy. And, I don't think we should let the perfect be the enemy of the good. This is on the table. This is possible to achieve. And so that's why I ultimately support it.
I completely get that. And I understand. Yeah. My problem with this is that I think this has probably killed it for a generation. And that from this point forward, I have a lot of this breakdown in my monologue, but you cancel 10K debt, outstanding debt will return back to today's levels in 4 years. So every single person so we're at 1.8 trillion. This is going to knock us down to approximately 1.25 trillion. We'll be back at 1.8 trillion in 4 years, which effectively means every single person who's currently in college right now in a 4-year degree institution, those people who are not going to be beneficiaries of this policy, after the last freshman today graduates, we're going to be right back where we started. So it's like, well, then what?
That just argues for doing more.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen. And then that's the issue, which is that I just genuinely believe this has killed it, politicized it, and made it so that we are not going to reform the college degree. And look, I think this is where we have to be honest. College administrators and college people in general are the base of the Democratic Party, like to its most core, the most reply guy people that exist online, especially graduate institutions. And to destroy this behemoth, you have to effectively bankrupt a large percentage of the most reliable Democratic voters. I just don't think that's politically going to happen.
But again,
from a left case, it's just not possible.
If it's not politically going to happen anyway, you may as well provide a little bit of relief to 43 million people in the meantime. And, listen, I'm not a big believer in the Democratic Party, although I have to say that they have surprised me a few times now. They've surprised me now with the CHIPS Act, with the Inflation Reduction Act, and actually maybe their most surprising gangster move was inserting into that Inflation Reduction Act while no one was looking this rebuke to the Supreme Court. It's very interesting. So, the Supreme Court struck down the EPA's ability to regulate carbon, and they were like, you have to legislate this, and Democrats snuck that provision into the Inflation Reduction Act while Republicans weren't paying attention. So they have surprised me a couple times here, but at this point in the electoral landscape, and I'm actually talking about this a little bit in my monologue, it's not crazy to imagine the Democrats hold the House and pick up a couple seats in the Senate. In which case, if you win the Pennsylvania seat versus Oz, and you win the Wisconsin seat versus Ron Johnson, which is probably the more difficult of the two, definitely the more difficult of the two, and you hold everything else, and right now the polls have them in that position, then you don't have to worry about Manchin and Sinema. And then, Biden has said before free community college was something that was really important to him, that he actually cared about. Well, then that actually is back on the table. I also want to say that, one of the other things that they do here that goes beyond the headline, 10K or 20K if you're a Pell Grant recipient, debt relief, is the fact that they made it more affordable for everyone blanket across the board by limiting student debt payments to 5% of income. That is a more sweeping change. They also have in here some things about trying, like more transparency around costs and whatever. I think all of that is ultimately
the colleges don't care.
Kind of meaningless. Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like in the Trump administration, they did this hospital thing, hospital pricing transparency. It did absolutely nothing. So I don't have a lot of confidence in that. But it is a broader reform, this 5% income limit for people, and also and this actually could make a difference. There's a program in place right now where if you're a public servant, you can have your debt discharged.
I think it's 10 years.
And it's the program theoretically exists, but is so mismanaged and disastrous that almost no one can make use of it. So actually making that like useful would be a big difference. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.